Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We today talking about on Come Home to Hope this Easter at Lakewood. Hope is a home for the heart. There's something sacred about the feeling of home. It's not just a roof or walls. It's the place where your soul exhales, where the weight of the world can drop off your shoulders and where you don't have to pretend. Home is where you're accepted, not because of what you've done, but simply because you belong. And yet, in the noise of life, many hearts have wandered far from that place. Worn down by disappointment, bruised by rejection, and burdened by regrets. It's easy to forget that home still exists, but the truth is, hope is still calling, and it's calling you back. Hope is not a concept for the perfect. It's not reserved for those who have life figured out. Hope is for the broken, the weary, the searching. It whispers through the chaos, there's still more for you. You're not finished yet. And that whisper grows louder when you least expect it. At the end of a long week, in the quiet of a sleepless night, or when everything in you is telling you to give up, that's when hope shows up, not as a lecture, but as an open door. Hope is a home for the heart because it doesn't judge where you've been. It simply welcomes you in. You may have gone through loss, made mistakes, or felt abandoned, but none of that disqualifies you. In fact, it's often in our lowest places that hope becomes most real. When everything else fades, hope remains. It's not about denying pain or pretending everything's okay. It's about holding on to the truth that something better is still ahead, even if you can't see it yet. There's a reason why so many people walk through life feeling spiritually homeless. It's not because they don't want to believe in something greater. It's because somewhere along the way they were convinced they no longer belonged. Religion may have told them they weren't good enough. Life may have told them they were too far gone. But hope doesn't speak in condemnation. Hope speaks in invitation. It says, come as you are. No need to clean yourself up before you walk through the door. Just bring your heart. And what happens when a heart finds its way back to hope? Something begins to shift. The bitterness begins to melt. The walls that were built for protection begin to come down. There's a softening, a quiet recognition that maybe, just maybe, it's safe to dream again. It's safe to believe again. That feeling of being lost starts to fade because you found something stronger than certainty. You found hope. And hope doesn't just settle in one area of your life. When it finds a home in your heart, it starts spreading. It affects how you see your future. It changes how you treat people. It restores your ability to trust again. You begin to speak differently, think differently, carry yourself differently. Because something inside you knows that this story isn't over. And maybe that's what this moment is about. Maybe it's not just a service or a message or another Easter Sunday. Maybe it's an invitation to come home. Not to a building, but to a belief. To come home to something unshakable. To come home to the peace you've been chasing in 1,000 different ways. To come home to the truth that no matter how long you've been gone, no matter how many wrong turns you've taken, the door is still open. Hope is where the heart can breathe again. It's where shame is silenced and purpose is remembered. It's not a place you earn your way into. It's where you were meant to be all along. Your past doesn't disqualify you. One of the heaviest burdens people carry isn't something others can always see. It's the quiet weight of regret, of shame, of the choices they wish they could undo. So many walk through life, not because they lack potential or purpose, but because they've convinced themselves that what's behind them has already canceled what could be ahead. The truth is, we all have chapters we wish we could rewrite. But just because your story has some broken pages doesn't mean the whole book is ruined. Your past doesn't disqualify you. There's a lie that tries to take root in our hearts that what we've done defines who we are, that if we've failed, then we are failures. that if we've messed up, we are unworthy. But that's not how grace works. That's not how redemption works. Your past may shape your perspective, but it doesn't decide your worth. The decisions you've made, the seasons you've walked through, the mistakes that still echo in your memory, they may have left scars, but they haven't erased your value. So often people disqualify themselves long before life ever does. They pull back, sit down, stay quiet, not because they lack calling, but because they believe the lie that they've blown their chance. They remember the failed relationship, the addiction, the missed opportunity, the words they wish they could take back. And somewhere in that reflection, they start to shrink their lives to the size of their shame. But the beauty of Easter, the message of hope, is that what feels final never is. That what feels like the end is often just the setup for a new beginning. You are not your worst moment. You are not the sum of your failures. You are more than the times you failed. You are also the strength it took to get back up. And maybe no one saw it. Maybe no one applauded it, but heaven did. The comeback isn't just for the strong or the flawless. The comeback is for those who believed they were done and still decided to take another step. When you carry guilt for too long, it becomes like a shadow, always lurking, always whispering that you're unworthy. But guilt is a poor guide. It'll keep you looking backward when your purpose is in front of you. Shame has a way of freezing your faith, of making you forget that you were created for more. But what if this Easter isn't about what you've done wrong? What if it's about what God is still planning to make right? There are so many people in the world who look like they have it all together on the outside, but are quietly haunted by who they used to be, and yet those very parts of their journey, the missteps, the tears, the silent battles, are the very things that shape their compassion, their strength, their wisdom. Sometimes the messiest parts of your story become the most powerful tools to help someone else find healing. Don't underestimate how far you've come just because you still remember where you started. There is power in your progress, even if it doesn't feel dramatic. The very fact that you've made it here today, still standing, still breathing, still open to hearing a message of hope, that's not a small thing. That's a sign that your story isn't over. That grace still has something to say, that the same hands that formed you still want to lead you. The past can be a teacher, but it was never meant to be a prison. You can honor where you've been without being held hostage by it. You can acknowledge what happened without letting it define what happens next. The truth is, some of the most powerful people are not those with spotless records. They're the ones who walk through the fire and come out refined, not ruined. Brighter in the dark. There's a certain beauty that only shows up in the dark. It's the quiet kind of beauty, the kind that isn't loud or flashy, but powerful in its stillness. It's the glow of a single candle in a pitch black room. It's the soft shimmer of stars that only appear once the sun goes down. Light has always existed, but it's in the dark that we truly see its strength. That's why the darkest seasons of life, the times when everything feels uncertain, when we feel lost or broken, those are often the very places where light begins to break through. We don't usually ask for the darkness. No one volunteers for pain or hardship. We crave clarity, comfort, control, but life has a way of bringing seasons we didn't plan for. A sudden loss, a diagnosis, a betrayal, an unexpected turn we never saw coming. In those moments, it can feel like hope is nowhere to be found. The night is thick and the path ahead is hidden. But even when we can't see it, light is still present. Even when we don't feel it, hope is still alive. Sometimes it takes the dark to make us look for it. The truth is, we often discover who we are in the shadows. That's where the surface things are stripped away. That's where our faith is tested, where our character is shaped, where our dependence on something bigger than ourselves begins to grow. The dark teaches us what the light never could. It humbles us, but it also deepens us. It awakens strength we didn't know we had, courage we didn't think we could carry, and a connection to something divine that we might have overlooked in easier times. Think about a seed. It's buried deep in the soil, surrounded by darkness, hidden from view. But it's there in the dark that transformation happens. The shell breaks open, new life begins, roots push down and sprouts reach up. None of that would have happened without the dark. It's a process that isn't always visible, but it's always valuable. And that's what happens to us too. There are moments when we feel buried, unseen, forgotten, but those might be the very moments when we're being prepared to rise. Sometimes the darkest moments come just before breakthrough. Right before the sunrise, the night is at its coldest and its blackest, but that doesn't mean the sun isn't coming. It just means we're closer than we think. And the thing about light is it doesn't take much. One spark, one small flame, one glimpse of something greater, it's enough to shift the atmosphere. It's enough to remind us that we're not alone and that what surrounds us isn't the end of the story. Even in the deepest valleys, there is always a flicker of something more. Maybe it's a kind word from someone when you needed it most. Maybe it's a moment of peace you didn't expect. Maybe it's a memory that reminds you you've made it through before. That's light. And it shows up in ways we often don't recognize until we look back and realize that we were being guided all along. What if the dark places weren't signs of abandonment, but opportunities for revelation? What if they weren't punishments, but setups for purpose? What if the shadows we fear are the very places where clarity is about to shine? The presence of darkness doesn't mean the absence of light. It means the stage is being set for it to shine brighter. We may not always be able to change the situation. We can't always avoid the storm, but we can open our hearts to the light that's still trying to reach us. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be loud. It just has to be real, because once it shows up, darkness can't win. Light always has the final word. You're not alone in the struggle. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't always show up in the quiet moments. It can live right in the middle of a crowd, in the middle of laughter, in the middle of everyday life. It's the weight of carrying something no one else can see, the ache of waking up with a battle in your mind or heart that others don't seem to understand. The truth is, we all struggle. But one of the cruelest tricks pain plays is convincing us that we're the only ones walking through it, that no one would understand, that no one else is wrestling with fear, with doubt, with weariness. And that kind of isolation is dangerous. It can drain our hope and shrink our perspective until all we see is what's wrong, what's missing, and what's broken. But the truth is, you're not the only one fighting. You're not the only one praying for something to change. You're not the only one waking up wondering how to keep going. The struggle may look different for each of us, but it exists in every row, every heart, every family. And that's not something to be ashamed of. That's something to draw strength from. There's comfort in knowing that we're not walking this road alone. There's healing in realizing that what feels like isolation is often a shared experience. Community doesn't always mean having all the answers. It doesn't mean fixing each other's problems or pretending that everything is okay. Sometimes community is just presence. It's sitting with someone in their pain without rushing them through it. It's listening without judgment, standing with them when they can't stand on their own, reminding them that even when life feels out of control, they are not abandoned. Struggle has a way of humbling us, but it also has a way of connecting us. Because once you've known what it feels like to be in the valley, you can recognize the look in someone else's eyes when they're trying to climb out of theirs. We weren't created to do life alone. There's something in the human spirit that needs connection, not just on the surface, but soul deep. The kind of connection that says, I see your pain and I'm still here. I know your story and I'm not walking away. That kind of love changes things. It restores dignity. It reminds you that your struggle doesn't make you weak, it makes you real. And real is where true hope begins. There's power in vulnerability. When you stop pretending that everything is perfect, you give others permission to do the same. And in that space, healing begins. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is to reach out, to say, I'm not okay right now and I need help. That's not weakness, that's strength, that's wisdom. That's what keeps darkness from gaining ground, because the moment we speak our pain, we rob it of its secrecy. And in that moment, we invite light in. You may not have the answers yet. The struggle may still be ongoing, but you're surrounded by others who are walking their own roads, facing their own battles, and choosing, just like you, to keep going. That's courage. That's resilience. And that's what community looks like. It's not perfect people pretending to be whole. It's imperfect people choosing to show up anyway, to believe for one another when it's hard to believe for ourselves. Some burdens were never meant to be carried alone. And when we step into a space where we can be honest about that, we begin to experience the kind of support that lifts us, restores us, and strengthens us for what's ahead. It reminds us that though the struggle may be real, so is the grace that carries us through it. The weight doesn't disappear, but suddenly it doesn't feel quite so heavy, because now you know someone's helping you carry it. There's purpose in your pain. Pain is one of the few things that can stop us in our tracks. It doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't check our schedule. It doesn't consider our plans. It arrives uninvited, often unexpected, and stays longer than we'd like. Whether it's the sting of heartbreak, the ache of loss, the weight of disappointment, or the slow burn of waiting on something that hasn't come to pass, pain has a way of challenging everything we thought we knew. And when we're in the thick of it, it's natural to wonder why. Why did this happen? Why now? Why me? But the truth that pain doesn't want you to see is that there is still purpose in it. Not all pain is punishment. Not all pain is meaningless. Sometimes pain is the very thing that shapes us, that refines our character, that leads us to clarity. It's in the places where we've been stretched, broken, and poured out that we often discover strength we never knew we had. It's in the silence of suffering that we develop a depth that joy alone could never give us. Growth rarely happens in comfort. We don't like to admit that, but it's true. The seasons where we feel most confused, most desperate, most raw, those are often the seasons where transformation is happening just beneath the surface. It doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like tears on the pillow. Sometimes it looks like showing up when you'd rather give up. But every step you take in the middle of pain is a step toward becoming someone stronger, wiser, more grounded in grace. Pain clears away what's shallow. It strips us of pretense. It leaves us with what's real. And in that rawness, there's a sacred space. A place where faith is not just a word, but a lifeline. A place where hope is not a nice thought, but the only thing holding us together. Pain makes room for purpose because it forces us to reach deeper than we ever thought we could. It invites us to stop leaning on what we can control and start trusting in what we cannot see. There are lessons we can't learn when everything is going right. There's compassion that only grows through empathy. It's wisdom that can only be earned through experience. When you've walked through pain, you start to see people differently. You're slower to judge and quicker to understand. You offer more grace, more patience, more kindness, because you know what it's like to need those things yourself. And though pain may mark you, it doesn't have to define you. What you've walked through might have changed you, but that doesn't mean it ruined you. In fact, it might have revealed who you truly are. The fire didn't destroy you, it refined you. The pressure didn't break you, it built something solid inside you. And that strength, that depth, that resilience is part of your purpose now. It's something you carry forward. It's something that others will one day draw strength from, even if they never know the full story of what you endured. Purpose doesn't mean pain is easy. It doesn't mean we're glad it happened. It simply means that it wasn't wasted. That even in the darkest moments, something eternal was being written. That even in the suffering, seeds were being planted. Seeds of empathy, compassion, perspective, and power. And though the harvest might not come all at once, it will come. Your pain has placed something inside you that comfort never could. And when the time is right, what was planted in sorrow can bloom into something that brings life, healing, and hope to others. There's a reason your heart kept beating when you thought it might break. There's a reason you're still standing when everything in you wanted to give up. The pain didn't stop your purpose. If anything, it awakened it. What once felt like a breaking point may actually be a birthing point. Something sacred is being formed in the struggle, something that will outlast the moment and reach further than you imagine. Today is the perfect time to begin again. There's something powerful about the idea of a fresh start. It stirs up hope, ignites dreams that may have been buried, and whispers the possibility that no matter how the story began, it can still take a different turn. The beautiful truth is that beginning again doesn't require a special date or a perfect moment. It doesn't need all the details figured out. All it takes is a decision, a quiet resolve deep in the soul that says, I may not have gotten it right yesterday, but today I choose to rise. And that's why today, right now, is the perfect time to begin. Life has a way of convincing us that it's too late. Too much time has passed. Too many mistakes have been made. Too many doors have closed. But that's the language of fear, not faith. The voice of fear highlights what's lost. Faith reminds you what's possible. You don't need to wait until the pain is gone or the plan is clear. You just need the courage to say yes to what could be. Because every new beginning starts with the belief that there's still more ahead than there is behind. We all carry things from the past, regrets, hurts, disappointments, even missed opportunities that haunt us late at night, and it's tempting to let those things define what we believe is still possible. But the past doesn't have the authority to decide your future unless you hand it the pen. The same life that brought pain has the capacity to bring beauty again. It may not look the same, it may not happen the way you imagined, but the essence of new beginnings is not about recreating what was. It's about stepping into what can be. Sometimes the biggest obstacle to a fresh start isn't what's happening around us. It's what's happening within us. It's the inner critic that says we're not ready. It's the shame that says we're not worthy. It's the fear that says we'll fail again. But what if today is the day you silence those voices? What if today is the day you refuse to be defined by what didn't work and instead become fueled by the chance to write something new? You don't have to have all the answers to begin again. You don't need to have it all together. You just need to take the next step, even if it's small, even if it's shaky, even if your voice trembles while you speak your dream out loud again. Because beginnings don't always announce themselves with trumpets and clear skies. Sometimes they come quietly, hidden in ordinary moments, in the decision to show up, to try again, to believe that change is possible. There is grace for today. There is strength for today. You don't have to carry the weight of everything all at once. You only need enough faith for this moment, enough hope to say maybe, just maybe, something good can still come from this. And that's where transformation begins. Not in having all the right conditions, but in choosing to believe that a new chapter is still available to you. The past may have brought some endings, but it didn't erase the promise of tomorrow. If your heart is still beating, if breath is still in your lungs, then purpose is still alive in you. There is still a reason you're here. There is still something to build, something to heal, something to give, something to grow. And it starts with one decision. to believe again, to move again, to live again. The perfect time is not next week or next year. It's not when you finally feel strong enough or confident enough. It's now, this moment, this breath, this space in between what was and what could be is sacred ground. And the choice to begin again isn't weakness, it's strength. It's not a sign that you failed. It's a sign that you're still reaching for what matters. This is your comeback moment. There's something undeniably powerful about a comeback. It doesn't start with applause. It doesn't begin with the crowd cheering. It often starts in silence, in the quiet aftermath of a setback, in the stillness after disappointment, in the personal space where only you know how deep the fall felt. A comeback begins not when circumstances change, but when something inside you shifts. It's when you choose to stand, even when everything around you says you should stay down. It's the whisper that rises up in your spirit that says, I'm not finished yet. And if you're breathing, if your heart is still beating, then this right here, this is your comeback moment. Life will hit hard sometimes. Dreams will detour. Plans will collapse. People will walk away. There will be moments when it feels like everything is unraveling, and it's easy in those seasons to believe that you've missed your window, that the opportunity is past, that the damage is too deep. But the comeback doesn't require perfect conditions. It's born in imperfect places. It begins right in the middle of the mess, right in the middle of the doubt, right in the middle of the question, can I really begin again? Yes, you can, because the comeback isn't about returning to who you were. It's about rising into who you're becoming. It's not about picking up where you left off. It's about starting again with more wisdom, more strength, and more perspective. What tried to break you can't keep you down when you remember who you are and whose strength is backing you. The very thing that was meant to defeat you can become the fuel that drives your return. The loss, the failure, the disappointment, it doesn't disqualify you. It sets the stage for something greater. Every great story has a turning point, that moment when it seems like everything is lost and then something shifts. The tide begins to turn. Hope starts to rise. The comeback begins. And that's what makes this story powerful. Not that everything went perfectly, but that despite the setbacks, despite the pain, the main character got back up. And now it's your turn. This is the part of your story where you get to decide that what happened to you doesn't get to be the final word. Maybe you've been through a season that stripped you of your confidence. Maybe life threw something at you that you didn't see coming. Maybe you feel tired, worn out, unsure of how to move forward, but your strength is not gone. It's just been buried under the weight of what you've carried. And this is the moment to shake off that weight, to remember what's still inside you, to reach down and draw from a deeper well. This is not the end of your story. It's the spark of your next chapter. A comeback doesn't mean everything gets fixed overnight. It means you choose not to give up. It means you decide that this time you're going to walk with your head held high, even if your steps are shaky. It means that grace is going to meet you right where you are and give you what you need to rise again. You don't need everything to change right now. You just need to believe that change is still possible, that what feels broken can still be rebuilt, that what feels lost can still be redeemed. You may have been counted out, you may have been overlooked, but nothing is wasted. Every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of silent struggle, it's all part of the comeback. It's the foundation for your rise. And when you begin to move forward again, even slowly, even quietly, heaven celebrates. Because the comeback isn't just about reclaiming what was lost. It's about becoming someone who knows how to fight for what's ahead. The comeback spirit doesn't deny the pain. It chooses not to be defined by it. It looks the darkness in the eye and says, I'm still here. It's resilient, it's fierce, and it's alive in you right now.